let's bring in Tricky Nicky Chahine. How you doing, Nick?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. We got a lively show going on. We just want to get your comments. Would you eat food out of a printer?
If it's not Soylent Green, maybe. If you haven't seen the movie, go back and watch it. I mean, it fits with the conversation this morning. That was hilarious, by the way. By the way, hey,
Food.
make room in your kitchen cabinets for a 3D printer. When did I say that? A while back.
Well,
I'm,
maybe if you get this 3D printer, you can get rid of everything else. You don't need a stove. You don't need anything else. So
well,
you can get rid of all those other. Man, you got to go out there and like short Maytag or something, or all these
well,
places, companies that make all these, because we're gonna have 3D printers making all our food.
but here's the thing. You get future engineers watching shows and then they start doing whatever they see on the shows. Look at the replicator from Star Trek. Flip phones came about because from that little replicator that they had. So it's not entirely crazy that we will have replicators for food. I mean, that's how they ate on Star Trek, right? You go up to a box and it just comes up breakfast.
Don't get
Press the
started on
breakfast button
yeah.
and you eat
Don't
your breakfast in 10 seconds.
Yeah,
don't
but your comments were hilarious. I was laughing.
good. Well, don't get
Don't
Dennis
give
started.
Joel too big of a head here.
Well, don't get Dennis started on like the Star Wars stuff because he's a major Star
We're
Wars
like
geek.
362 days away from the next movie.
There you
Oh
go.
my gosh.
Okay.
Those are different movies. Star Trek, Star Wars.
It's big time different, yeah, Joel. I'm not a big Star Trek fan, but I love Star Wars.
Okay. All right.
I had all the toys when I was growing up. Did you have the Star Wars toys, Nick? Or you were
I
probably
did,
not. You
I
were
did not
playing in
have
the
the
bunkers.
toys. I
You
did
should
not
have
have
no,
the
no
toys.
Star Wars toys in the bunkers there?
No, because I happened to be visiting France when the Return of the Jedi came out, so I watched it over there in 3D, I think, if I remember correctly,
3D.
or
Oh,
something funky about the theater. I can't remember if it was big screen, 3D, or something, but it was an incredible thing
3D
for
popcorn.
yeah, something like that.
All right, we really digressed here, Nick. But it's the Tuesday before the holidays. It looks like Santa Claus is on his sleigh delivering a rally.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
Yeah, shot nice GDP number. How are things looking to you out there?
Well, the before the GDP was worth at least 4.5 point pop right away. So, is it going to be good news, bad news type of a deal where Yellen's hand's going to be forced? I'm not sure. I fought the tape and the Fed all second half of the year, and I luckily won. I gave back some money a little bit at the end by buying some insurance, but all of my short positions I've closed, and now I'm looking to put some more. Not because I'm bearish, because I see more danger on the downside than the potential of the upside. So I just use a sniper rifle, as I've been saying lately, and put out some credit call spreads that short the market with a decent buffer where I don't have to sweat it. Every once in a while, I get a little greedy and I try to play the weeklies. Like yesterday, I shorted at 2100 and I closed it that same day for a quick scalp with a credit call spread. So it basically made a car payment for any household here. And it was a quick trade, like maybe an hour. But I'm also still short, but a lot higher for the quarterlies, which end on the 31st for the SPX. So I give it room. I shorted the 2125 area, and I'm not too sweaty about that one. This one is a green trade as of today, yesterday. And with the days off coming, I'm pretty sure I can get out of this one with a handsome penny there too.
so let's talk specific stocks here, Nick. And I
Sure.
I always like to talk to you about Priceline here. And Priceline had an awesome day yesterday. Went in a full breakout mode there. Rallied 30 bucks on the day, or actually almost $40 on the day. How are you approaching Priceline and how the options look for this week?
Well, Priceline is bullish right now. It's kind of breaking out, and I would not be surprised to see mid 1200s in the next few days if the market continues as it is. This guy runs fast, as you know, and I like to go long it on the downside, but it was so scary with the market sentiment that I missed the long play on it. So usually when it gets down to where I think a lot has shaken out, then I throw a credit put spread big time on it, or and ride the upside wave, and then do the opposite when it gets to the top. But I would not short Priceline and debit call spreads might pay, especially if the market sentiment still is so constructive. And especially that this January is where, at least the first quarter, is where the ECB is expected to do something with regards to QE. And if they do, Priceline is beneficiary of that because they have a lot of money that comes from Europe. So a long play on Priceline is not that crazy. In fact, I can probably do something even crazier. I watch as you know, I've said that before, the calls, the leaps, and see how much they pay. And when they become ridiculous, I start thinking about shorting it, but not before that. So, like when I told you somebody was paying $45 for me to sell a 1500 call for this January, but that was about 6 months ago. Then that's become extreme, and that marked almost the top in Priceline at the time. So I'm watching those calls and see whenever they get extreme. Maybe I'll even sell one or two out in time, like middle of next year.
Nick, just staying in that same sector here, kind of. Expedia, could you pull that up on your chart and see what you think about this one? This one is held up quite a bit better than the Priceline.
All right, what's the ticker again? I forgot. EXPD?
EXPE.
E. Let's see here. I did not look at the open interest. Technically, it's the range was so big with that dip in October. It got spit on really hard, and now it's trying to make a constructive move up. Higher lows, kind of knocking on an area of resistance. So I'm not too compelled to chase it higher, but the market sentiment is high, and as long as it doesn't get any bad news, and let me take a peek at the open interest and see if I can discern
I
that.
bet you there's a wall at 90 there after that kind of run up. That might be the line in the sand for this week, considering you moved up from under 72, made a high of the move at 92 and change. I would believe
it
that was
sounds like you already looked at them.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Just go ahead. What do you got for us?
The January open interest looks resistive at 90 as far as where the last line of resistance that is significant, but the resistance starts lower than that. It starts about 85, actually maybe $1 or $2 lower than that. So it is in resistance territory, like I said, but that is also reflected in the chart itself. If you look at it, if you look at the tops, and this is the area where it's failed before, it peaked up to 92 one time, but then reverted back down to 86 immediately thereafter within like 5 or 6 days. And now it's back halfway between those two numbers I just said. So from here, it needs to prove itself. So if I wanted to go along it, I have reason to wait a little bit and miss $1 to see if it's going to break out from there. I'm not going to risk my money on a hope it breaks out.
Okay. All right. Good call there. Let's move to Twitter here. Nice move yesterday. Bob Peck was making comments that he didn't think Dick Costello was going to last another year, kind of based on, his talk with institutional investors. Got a nice bounce on that. Still just, a year after its IPO, Twitter just hanging out at the same area, 38, 39 bucks. What is your take on Twitter?
Twitter is like Alibaba. You got to plug your nose and go long, long, long distance with it because somebody will figure it out. Alibaba already figured it out. I mean, they make so much money. That's crazy to short that stock. And Twitter is so useful to the world until we find another tool that we can do with what we can do with Twitter on. I mean, look how I got to know thousands of people just from Twitter, and I can send out messages to the world in an instant. I mean, where else can you do that? It's a valuable tool. Somebody will figure it out. If not them, somebody else. So Twitter is a plug your nose, buy a leap call, and forget about it, or buy it and forget about it, especially when they got down to the mid-30s. This is a price where everybody thought, okay, the floor was like 40, and then suddenly it's under 40. Hey, it's a little attractive. And then when it gets down to even more attractive level, everybody walks away from it. It doesn't make sense. So Twitter is plug your nose and go long and forget about it. Somebody will figure it out. If I put long money on Twitter, I won't sweat it.
It's funny.
So
Nick
this is sitting right here
yeah,
with a $23 billion market cap right now. That's what the company's worth. And I think, like I was comparing it before, like to the WhatsApp. Remember, didn't that go for $19 billion? I'd much rather own Twitter than WhatsApp, wouldn't you?
I would too. I mean, I'm saying, I mean, it brought down Egypt. You remember that? I mean, it was incredible. It's an incredible tool. Until everybody says complicated. What's complicated about it? There's nothing complicated. Once you know the concept, when you know, I saw they released a video when they first went live. Do you remember that? I heard about Twitter. I was like, what's that? It's like, it was confusing. And then I watched a little video they had. It was like a 5-minute little tweet video thing that they made for themselves. And I was like, oh, I get it. And that's it. You open an account and you start tweeting, or you just watch the tweets. That's it. I don't watch the news. I don't read papers anymore. I get all my news from Twitter.
Really?
You know what the other issue though is with Twitter, and I think this is where they struggle a little bit. Is like people open a Twitter account and they don't really know what to do off the hop. Like you open it up, and if you don't know who to follow. Now they give you some suggested follows and stuff, but they really don't know nothing about you off the bat too. Like, I mean, you can fill in a few questions, but they're still trying to figure out. Now my suggested Twitter followers are excellent suggestions because they see what you tweet, they see what you're talking about, they can see all that to suggest better things, but they don't know you when you just first open an account by answering a few questions. So I think some
Right.
people are just lost in it. Plus, the other thing is people don't want to tweet because they don't have any followers. And, how do you get followers? It's not that easy of a thing to do. You can
But
follow other people, unless you're in the media, it's hard to get followers.
but as a tool, you don't need to tweet. I literally get all my news before the newspaper from Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, every news agency on the planet tweets before they print. Immediately, they get news, boom, they want to beat the other guy on Twitter.
Yeah.
And you get it. All you have to do is just follow what you read. If you read CNN or you watch CNN, follow CNN. If you watch this, you follow that. So you don't have to actually participate. You can lurk. I mean, but price-wise, the open interest for January looks like they like 40. For price, both calls and puts. It's like a magnet area. So I would venture, if I wanted to throw longs, I would throw longs in Twitter. The only problem is that it's a momentum stock and it's a perceived froth. So whenever the momentum sell off, it's going to sell off. And in 2014, momentum stocks have not been able to maintain their greens more than a few hours, like 12 hours, 24 hours, and then they revert. Well, it looks like today they're going to break that because yesterday a lot of the strength came on their backs, except for a handful. But mostly all the momentum stocks, like you saw, Priceline and all of that, they're all up big. So this morning's pre-open numbers tell us that we're going to have another green day, albeit short day. But the momentum stocks may make a liar out of me today. But it's a short day, so we'll see where that takes us.
Nick, I mean, I just want to just ask you about, like you said, you get all your news from it. I mean, I think, for me, I mean, I mean, I have it on my phone. I'm not always looking at my phone. I'm not always on the computer. I mean, if you get an alert for every tweet of people that follows, your phone's going to blow up. I mean, how do you
No,
how do you
I,
aggregate the news and just not let it consume your life?
I have it. I have it as a. I have it down to science, really. I have about a dozen or so news agencies and people that I deem important. So I have an important list, like a favorite list, I think, and I tell it to text me the favorites. So
There
I
you
don't get
go.
everything. I get like maybe a couple hundred a day, but they're one-liners, and I can scroll through them if I'm away from my PC, like on the weekend, and in 5 minutes, I know what's going on in the world, or at least I know what's not going on in the world. So if I'm not getting any tweets, then there's nothing to be followed. But if something happens, like if a plane crashes, God forbid, somewhere in the world, then boom, it's immediately there. If there's a buyout talk, boom. If Google says something, boom. So you can set it up. And on top of it, I have them set up as spam messages. So they go into a special bin where they don't even bother my eyeball by popping up with messages that you got text messages. So they come through your phone, they go into a spam box, and you open the spam box and read it, and there's your news.
I will tell you that Twitter does typically break the news first because they don't have to verify it. So, I mean, person just gets, here's something and they're going to tweet it out. So where regular news sources have to verify it. And a great example of this was when Whitney Houston died. I remember I saw it on my Twitter account, Whitney Houston is dead. They were saying, R.I.P. Whitney Houston. I'm like, that's crazy. So I flip it right over to CNN. I'm like, oh, they're going to be covering this for sure. And CNN's just doing regular broadcasting. I'm like,
Right.
well, this has just got to be wrong. CNN would
Yeah.
be all over this. And then literally 30 seconds later, breaking news, CNN pops in,
Yeah.
with Whitney Houston dead.
What
So
about?
they have to go verify it first, and that's why the news breaks usually on social media before it
Yeah.
breaks on, the traditional media sources because they don't have to verify it there on Twitter.
Also the situation in the White House not too long ago, somebody jumped on the lawn or something like that. I don't remember. And immediately on Twitter you find out, and immediately the e-minis react, and so you see the e-minis move. I jump on Twitter. What's going on? I don't
Yeah.
open it. I don't turn on the TV to see what's going on. I hop on Twitter to see what's going on. So anyway, so this morning looks like we're gonna pop open. Did you see the rally in oil, like the 1 minute and on CL as soon as the GDP came out? It's like that's the reason oil is down. It's a rigged market over there, and today it's important. I'm just like jumping topics here off of Twitter, but the OPEC, I read a header on OPEC saying that, oh, don't worry about the prices. They'll recover to about 70 within the year, meaning we kick the can, stop asking us. We're not going to do anything. We're going to let prices linger here for a year. So longer distance, oil is staying lower for a while, but it's not going to break down to 35 like everybody started talking as soon as it hit mid 50s or something. The open interest in the oil market said it needed to be closer to 60 last week, and it did. It popped up to 58 or something, then retraced a little bit. But let it go. The oil is not an issue. It's not a demand issue. It's a economic warfare going on between on the planet, and who cares who's fighting who? The byproduct is lower oil should linger here for a little bit.
You have
I
a
don't think we've seen the low in oil. That's my opinion here, but I think we're consolidating here for a while. The last little bit, you could say it's trying to form a bottom here, but I've seen this story before where it consolidates for a little bit and then it takes out those lows. And I'm just kind of itchy and waiting for oil to break down below those lows because I think if it does take those out, I think we could still see $50 oil.
Well, $50 is not that big a deal when you're at
10%.
55. When
Well,
you're
10%.
yes, but psychologically and its effect on everybody's buying stocks is I don't think is a big a deal. All I know is oil demand could not have been cut in half in a month. That's all I know. If
Yeah.
if indeed that's the case, then China will be negative in growth. There's no way. And to be cut unless they've been robbing us for a decade or however long it's been up there. So I can't believe that the fundamentals changed that drastically in that short period of time. It is a maneuvered price. It's a managed price. They brought it down from the 90s to the 70s, and everybody thought, "Oh, this is it. I'm going to catch this falling knife," and back down to the 50s. And I don't think they need to move it down to the 40s. They'll have a revolt on their hands. I mean, they have social programs they need to pay for. They, as in OPEC members and surrounding countries, the Arab world, basically, they will be in serious trouble. And then you'll have Venezuela issues and all the byproducts of that.
So you don't think no way we get below 50?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they have no reason to take it down. That's my own opinion.
Okay. Okay.
If I'm playing chess and I'm watching the chess, or I'm watching a chess game and there's OPEC on one side and the Western world on the other side, I would say I'd be surprised if these guys would pull a bonehead move like that.
Okay, get into a checkmate. All right, Nick, we got about a minute left here. Just final thoughts on the market.
On the market, I'm looking at open interest for SPX for January, and I can't reconcile it with the current levels. So either everybody's going to have to adjust up in price, or the market is not going to be here in the middle of end of January. So I'm not chasing the rally with new longs from here. I select longs might work, some good names that get hammered, but I'm more comfortable shorting the market cautiously with a sniper rifle.
Okay, Nic Chahine, Market 5 maven and author of Create Income with Option Spreads. He joins us every Tuesday at 8:35, gives us great insight on the markets, throws in some macros and some fundamentals and fun things like that. Nick, thanks a lot. Have a good holiday, and we'll check in with you next Tuesday.
You too, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.